It was tricky filming through a barred window, but I didn't want to get any closer to the Israeli army. The Mediterranean was barely visible in the distance, and the refugee camp was quiet under an army curfew. Weaving through the side streets of the Gaza Strip, I knew I was fortunate to be with Palestinians. A foreigner with a camera could run into trouble here. There were rumors the Israeli security police had been posing as American television crews. I was lucky to be trusted at all. I'm not a reporter. I'm a filmmaker. I've brought camera crews to the Middle East before and been fascinated with the people and their problems. I came on this trip alone with a tiny home video camera, the kind tourists carry. My idea was to keep a travel journal on videotape. My name is Steve York. My hotel is in Jerusalem. On the west side of town, it's hard to remember I'm in the Middle East. The corner of Jaffa Road and King George Street is the same as always. Life in Israel looks normal. Things are different in East Jerusalem, the Palestinian side of town. I've never seen the old city like this, without the shoppers and tourists. I found the shops where I'd bought embroidered dresses for my daughters and Christmas presents for friends, about 100 yards from the place where Jesus is believed to have been crucified. Now, the Palestinian merchants stay closed most of the time because of the uprising. Since the last time I was here, Israel's military presence has increased dramatically. Listening to the news in my hotel room has become a morning ritual on this trip.
Good morning, everyone. It's 7 a.m. in Israel. First, the headlines. An Arab villager is killed by Jewish residents of Shiloh in Samaria. Police arrest...
Israel Radio uses the biblical name Samaria for the northern part of what I know as the West Bank, a rugged area a little bigger than the state of Delaware. I was here to spend the first part of May with a group of Palestinian medical workers in the West Bank. On my second morning, I set out with Selwa, an obstetrician who volunteers her time to work in village clinics. The sign on her dashboard indicates she's a Palestinian doctor in an area where unfamiliar cars can arouse suspicion. We didn't get very far. Selwa and her assistant tried to estimate how long it would take to walk to our destination.
15, 20 minutes, if you like.
It was my first direct experience of the uprising, but the rules were easy. The Israeli army puts rocks on the road to keep the villagers in, and the villagers put rocks on the road to keep the army out. Selwa turned back rather than risk running into the army. We headed for another clinic in a village where she knew the roads were clear. Selwa's patients are mostly children and pregnant women. I'd done some homework, and I knew that 2/3 of West Bank towns and villages have no modern medical services at all. Clinics like this, staffed by local people, are helping. But Palestinian health care is obviously a low priority for the Israeli military government. Selwa wants to know why this patient is losing weight. She's 22 years old, 5 months pregnant. She explains she can't get the iron and vitamins she's supposed to take. The pharmacies have been closed because of the uprising. Selwa gives her the vitamins, but it's clear she's not eating properly. Anemia in pregnant women has become more common during the uprising, related to stress and anxiety. By 4 in the afternoon, Selwa has seen 30 patients. She's about ready to leave when a local farmer comes in with an injured hand. It's serious enough to require stitches, but I can see he enjoys the attention of 4 women. He raises a fuss when Selwa gets ready to inject an anesthetic. She says, "Turn your face away. Men are more afraid than women. Just imagine if you had to give birth. What would happen to you?" Clinics like this are non-profit with private support, so treatment is cheap but not free. To get his hand fixed up, the farmer paid 5 shekels, about $3.50.
When I was in England, I saw a film in Manchester done by Israeli television about our land, that it was land without people, and it was a desert. So they came and they make it very beautiful, and so this is our desert, you can see it. I always hope that everything will be changed and we will have our rights. Maybe I will not see that, but my son and daughter, they can see it maybe.
In less than an hour, we were back in Jerusalem. The name means City of Peace. In a rented house not far from the old city, another clinic. Here, Selwa spends a day a week reading pap smear slides. Down the hall, I met Saeed, a medical lab technician, and Mustafa, a physician, a GP. He's worked for the Medical Relief Committee, he says MRC for short, since the beginning 9 years ago. MRC is actually a union of similar committees all over the West Bank and Gaza. There were patients in the waiting room, but also community health workers from the villages, learning the basics of public health and disease prevention. Jumana is a pediatrician. She told me she came to work here when she realized it was pointless to save lives in her high-tech hospital and then send children home to villages where the environment would probably kill them. On the side porch, box lunches are packed to eat on the road. Traveling pharmacies are built into 2 Volkswagen vans called mobile clinics. By my 3rd day, I realized MRC is primarily a road show. Going out with the medical teams was better than I'd expected. A chance to see the West Bank and Gaza through the eyes of the Palestinians who inhabit them. The political tension was unmistakable in spray-painted slogans and military vehicles. But for the people I was with, news of stone throwing and curfews was like a weather report, to be heeded because it might affect their ability to get where they're going. Otherwise, the conflict and the uprising were rarely discussed. Several people pointed out a new prison, tents and barbed wire under an Israeli flag, for Palestinian boys under 16, a camp for stone throwers. By myself one afternoon, I parked my rented car to watch an Israeli army patrol in downtown Ramallah, one of the larger West Bank towns. Even with their machine guns, they looked vulnerable. I wouldn't have wanted their jobs. I'd come to Ramallah to visit a Palestinian home where MRC was doing blood grouping. It's a new project, usually done in private homes, where people from the neighborhood come by to have their blood type determined. The test is simple with immediate results, but what I saw was much more than a medical procedure. They keep a record of names, addresses, telephone numbers, and blood types. It's an ingenious solution to a serious problem. There is no central blood supply in the West Bank. Copies of the list are given to hospitals and clinics so they can contact the right blood donors. The project is a response to the medical emergencies that have increased during the uprising. It was the kids who impressed me the most. The boy who'd lost an eye to a rubber bullet in a confrontation with the army, and all the others who couldn't resist my camera. The first generation of Palestinians to have lived entirely on Israeli-occupied land. One afternoon, I went with Jumana to Maqasid Hospital in Jerusalem. I met 6 patients recovering from serious gunshot wounds. One was 10, a paraplegic with a severed spine. Maqasid is considered the best medical facility in the West Bank. It's a private hospital run by Palestinians.
Now, what should I normally see? Is there something missing here? Is that what happened?
Yes, this is the bones missing. It came from here,
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw the effects of high-powered weapons used at very close range.
See this shadow?
Sections of missing bone, nerve, and blood vessel can be as much as 2 inches long.
Immediately after
Surgical repair is difficult, and healing takes months.
March.
Awad is from a refugee camp in Gaza. He told Jumana he'd been taken to an Israeli hospital where surgeons repaired his femoral artery. He was sent home after 1 day. In the next 2 weeks, his leg got worse.
He mentioned that during these 2 weeks he couldn't go to any doctor because he was afraid from being arrested. So later on they decided to come to this hospital and they found that his he lost his leg because it was gangrene. And they made this amputation, below-knee amputation for him, if you want.
In news of the uprising, I'd heard of the deaths, now in the hundreds. The injured are in the thousands. Before long, I thought, Palestinians are going to need a veterans organization. Ahmed had also gone to an Israeli hospital. He told Jumana he was angry because the Israelis didn't bother to write a report when they transferred him here. They just wrote the name of the medication he'd been given on his chest in magic marker. When I heard such stories, I took them at face value. I was just here to listen.
He said that the Israelis couldn't and they will never kill our spirit. We still believe to have our rights, to have our own independent state next to Israel. So he wants you just to take this message to American people, to tell them honestly what you've seen and what could you do with other people to help our cause.
Thank you.
Car stereo turned up. One expedition started out feeling more like a Sunday picnic than a medical relief mission. Heading for a remote village one morning, Jumana spotted the turnoff.
The usual entrance must be from here.
Blocked with boulders. They were so big, I figured it was the work of the army. But no one talked about it. Ahmed, the pharmacist who doubles as a driver, knew an alternate route. We passed a Palestinian flag, a symbol of Palestinian nationalism. These flags are illegal. Normally, the army takes them down as fast as they're put up. A blackened spots are where local people had set roadblocks with burning tires. Our destination is a village of about 3,000. From the newspapers, I knew it had been under army siege for several weeks. The road had been cut. Clearly the work of a bulldozer. And only the army has bulldozers. The journey resumed on foot. It turned out to be 3 kilometers, all uphill. The heavy breathing you'll hear is me. The microphone is close to my mouth on the camera. I resolved to quit smoking.
You know, each time we think this is the most exciting experience. And life shows that there are still more exciting things to see. What's meant by this policy, putting people under siege or curfews for long periods, is to break people. To break their will, to break their fastness. And it's not working. And it's creating more self-reliance.
We were inside of the village when we took a break under a shade tree. A man from the village showed up with refreshments. Obviously, he'd been expecting us. The doctors asked whether it was safe to leave the vans parked down the road. The men from the village promised to send some local boys to stand guard. I'd just caught my breath when we started up again. I had a feeling I should try to be inconspicuous, so I fell in at the end of the procession. It turned out to be a good idea. It's possible the villagers who came out to meet us had warned someone, but if so, no one told me. I was unprepared for what happened next. I'm slowing down the next part of the tape to make it easier to see. As we rounded a corner leading into a main street, someone up front yelled my name. We were walking straight toward a dozen well-armed Israeli soldiers. One of them is just visible to the left of Ahmad's arm. In the 2 seconds it took me to react, I accidentally got these pictures. The soldiers were amazed to see us. We were obviously unwelcome, but the medical team stood its ground through an hour of negotiations with higher and higher officers. I think the Army finally realized how bad it would look if they refused medical treatment to people who needed it. It was a great scene, but I didn't dare film it. The camera stayed in my bag. Eventually, the Army let us set up shop in an empty house. I'd never seen medicine practiced like this, but then I'd never lived in a village cut off from the outside world. Germana set up a pediatric department on a window ledge. For the first couple of hours, I stayed to the side of the window to avoid being seen by the soldiers who were standing guard just outside. The little girl had a fever. I didn't hear the reason. For the last several years, MRC has been visiting the village about once a week. But recently, the village had been sealed off. No one had seen a doctor for 43 days. There was a boy with dog bites. Rabies was possible. The question was whether the Army would let him leave the village for treatment. There were lots of dental problems. The woman is diabetic. She's run out of medicine. Mustafa spent about an hour with her. Based on a blood test done on the spot, he adjusts her dose. He tells her to take 2 tablets. 1 isn't enough. She's been trying to stretch her supply. Around midday, the villagers served tea to the medical team and to me. I was a guest. And one thing I've learned about being a guest among Palestinians or among Arabs anywhere is that hospitality is taken seriously. The tea was good, hot and sweet. When the crowd thinned out in the afternoon, I discovered why Jumana had carried a bundle of cards up the hill. Even in Arabic, the basics of first aid were familiar. But this was no lesson in common household injuries. It was like the first aid I learned in Army boot camp. Gunshot wounds, fractures, tear gas. Before you do anything else, she says, make sure he's breathing, that there are no obstructions in his mouth or throat. As I tried to follow the lesson, I realized the audience was entirely women. I'd seen no young men all day. I learned later that when the army is around, the men make themselves scarce, afraid of being beaten or arrested. She points out we're a long way from doctors and hospitals here. How long is it safe to keep up the pressure on a wound? Jumana reassures her, but I couldn't help thinking, getting to a doctor or hospital from here might take a long time, even if the roads were open. When Jumana talks about tear gas, they smile. They already know about it. When they totaled their records back home, they discovered they'd examined and treated 189 patients. It was getting late when we walked back to the vans. Everyone was anxious to get out before the soldiers showed up again. I know it seems I'm talking a lot about the Israeli army. Well, that's the way things are in the West Bank. It's hard to do anything without thinking about the army. No one had eaten since early morning. One of the villagers gave us a bag of fresh pita bread as we were leaving. But the snack didn't slow down the operation. As soon as we were moving, Ahmed put a cassette into the tape player. People started joking. Mustafa reminded everyone my camera was recording sound. He told them, keep the jokes moderately clean. This song translated, I guessed Ahmed had put it on deliberately. It's a solidarity song with patriotic words. I call to thee, I firmly grasp your hand, I kiss the ground beneath your feet, and I offer myself to you. The verse says, my shoulders have not been crushed in my own land. Naked and barefoot, I stand up and face those who oppress me. On our way, we'd been flagged down in a neighboring village to treat an injured boy. The father told Mustafa the army had used live ammunition to break up a demonstration 10 days earlier. A A stray bullet grazed the boy in the crotch, but he'd been afraid to leave the village for treatment. Several days later, a doctor had come to stitch the wound, but now it's swelling and painful. Mustafa tells them wounds should be stitched within 12 hours. If you wait longer, it may do more harm than good.
Would you like him to tell you the story of what happened?
The father wanted to tell me about the soldiers who searched their house. They came into the house and broke everything, he says. The cassette player, the cups and glasses, the buffet, the television. They mixed the rice and sugar together and hit the women. One of the soldiers stuck out his gut. Then he dropped his pants and exposed himself to the women in the house. Where is their shame? There is no dignity. There is no principle.
I will remove the stitch if you want to.
Mustafa removes the stitches and dresses the wound. He offers to take the boy with us to Makasad Hospital in Jerusalem. But the father declines, knowing that hospitals are required to report all gunshot wounds to the military government, which then uses the information to arrest the patient. When we finally headed home for the day, I wondered, how long can these Palestinians keep going? The villagers in their rugged hills, and the medical volunteers who do what they can within the limits of military rule. I stopped in at the Jerusalem clinic the day before my return flight to New York. They explained it was a work day. About 3 dozen doctors, dentists, pharmacists brought their friends and made a scene that reminded me of good Midwestern Protestants fixing up an old church. In my 2 weeks here, I'd come to like these people. Their lives are precarious, but they don't act like victims. And on this day, at least, they were feeling good about their future. I still hear from them occasionally. Their work continues. But after I left, the Army detained 2 of their medical teams. They were quickly released, but it's not a good sign. In September, the Army arrested one of their dentists. It's called administrative detention. He wasn't accused of anything, but they can keep him in prison for 6 months. Until now, that's all I've heard.